data centers and AI infrastructure this year. Those companies are really, they're really going at it, and they're very smart people, very good people. I got to know a lot of them. You know, I didn't like them so much the first term when I was running. I wouldn't say I was thrilled with them, but I've gotten to know them and like them. And I think they got to like me, but I think they got to like my policies maybe much more than me. NVIDIA has committed $500 billion over the next 4 years. Thank you, Jensen. I'm sure that'll be a good investment. If you're doing it, it's good. Thank you very much. It's a great statement. Last week, I was in Pennsylvania as 20 companies announced $92 billion with David McCormick, senator, great guy from Pennsylvania. $92 billion in energy and data center projects, including what will soon be the largest natural gas power plant anywhere in North America. They're going to town. It's already under construction, the largest in North America by far. For decades, we had leaders who spent their time focused on building up foreign nations. Under the Trump administration, we are going to have leaders who are going to build up our nation. This colossal investment in AI infrastructure and many other industries, for that matter, such as automobiles and so many other things, will also create thousands and thousands of great-paying jobs, the kind of jobs we want, including lots of blue-collar jobs. And, you know, our numbers are very good right now, but wait till you see these numbers in 2 years from now. It will mean higher wages and more opportunity for millions of energy workers, HVAC technicians, engineers, electricians, and the hardworking citizens who make our country run. These are great people that make our country actually run. To ensure America maintains the world-class infrastructure we need to win today, I will sign a sweeping executive order to fast-track federal permitting, streamline reviews, and do everything possible to expedite construction of all major AI infrastructure projects. And this will be done. You will get so good a service in so many ways, not only from Lee with the environment, but you need many other types of permits, and you're going to go so fast. You're going to say, well, wait a minute, this is too fast. I didn't expect to go this quickly. This is a problem. I may cause a problem in opposite. But including factories, data centers, and power plants of all kinds, the United States will have total industrial and technological supremacy. The second pillar of our action plan for AI dominance is to get the entire world running on the backbone of American technology, and I think that's very much happening right now, and I think it's going to happen. The last administration was obsessed with imposing restrictions on AI, including extreme restrictions on its exports. As you know, they made it very difficult to export. This alienated American partners and drove even our friends into the arms of China and other countries. That's why upon taking office, I repealed the so-called Biden diffusion rule. Can you imagine that? That crippled American AI exports, the Biden diffusion rule. I wonder who came up with that name, because he has no idea what it is. He had no idea what it was. He came up with a rule. I wonder who drew that one. I wonder, was that signed by the AutoPen, I think, because they went to him and said, we're going to do a diffusion rule. Mr. President, what? What? It's okay, the AutoPen will take care of it. It's one of the greatest scandals in the history of our country, let me tell you. Under my administration, we will maintain necessary protections for our national security, but we will never forget that the greatest threat of all is to forfeit the race and force our partners into rival technology. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. Okay? Not going to let that happen. That could be the end. When I traveled to the Middle East in May, every leader I met was thrilled to do business with American tech firms and with America, and they were all thrilled to meet me, believe it or not. It's hard to believe, isn't it? But they were. By the way, most powerful woman in the world is here today. Susie Wiles, stand up, please. Susie Wiles, Chief of Staff. She can take out a country with a mere phone call. No, they just voted her the most powerful woman anywhere in the world. She might be the most powerful person in the world, I think. But she's done hasn't she done a good job, though, huh? Good. But we're going to come home with trillions and trillions of dollars in deals, and that's the way it is. But the King of Saudi Arabia, I met three great leaders. I went to three countries predominantly. King of Saudi Arabia said, and I can say that Qatar and UAE, the leaders, brilliant guys, great people, they said the same thing. They said, you know what, that 1 year ago, your country was dead. It was a dead country. They were looking at China, they were looking at other places, but you had a dead country. And today, Mr. President, you have the hottest country anywhere in the world. They said that, and they meant it so strongly. And when I went to NATO 2 weeks ago, where we made the deal where they pay 5% instead of 2%, they said the same exact thing. They said, boy, I tell you what a difference it is. It's a year ago, you people were dead. We didn't think you were going to make it as a country. Today, you're the hottest country in the world. They all said it, all those leaders said, 30 of them. So today I'm signing another major executive order that will turn America into an AI export powerhouse. Under this order, Secretary Lutnick and Secretary Marco Rubio's doing a great job as Secretary of State, will work to rapidly expand American AI exports of all kinds, from chips to software to data storage of all kinds. And that's very important. That's going to give you the freedom to do what you want to do. And third, once and for all, we are getting rid of woke. Is that okay? Because I know you had to hire all woke people. I heard you had to hire all woke people under some of these things. How about the chips, where they give you the chip nonsense, where they give you billions of dollars if you only build a chip company? These people have plenty of money. They don't need the money. They need the permits. They need the rights to do it. They don't want to pay tariffs, so they come and they build here. That's why they're coming here. They like, number one, they like me, but they like not having to pay tariffs even more. And they're coming. But Biden gave billions of dollars to companies that have nothing but cash. And they don't say where to build. It's just give them money. But here's the problem. They have to hire lots of woke people. And they say woke isn't for this particular industry. We've noticed that. They're not for a lot of industries, if you want to know the truth. So the guidelines were impossible. They're going to give you money, but you got to hire this and this and this and that. And I don't want to get into it too much because I don't want any controversy today. But you have to hire a lot of people that were not into this particular world that you're in. And so therefore, all the money they gave didn't mean a damn thing. One of Biden's worst executive orders established toxic diversity, equity, and inclusion ideology as a guiding principle of American AI development. So you immediately knew that was the end of your development. But the American people do not want woke Marxist lunacy in the AI models, and neither do other countries. They don't want it. They don't want anything to do with it. That's why on day one, I very proudly terminated Joe Biden's order on woke AI, effective immediately. You don't have any of those crazy rules. Crazy rule. And in just a moment, I will be signing an order banning the federal government from procuring AI technology that has been infused with partisan bias or ideological agendas such as critical race theory, which is ridiculous. And from now on, the U.S. government will deal only with AI that pursues truth, fairness, and strict impartiality. We're not going to go through the craziness that we've gone through for the last 4 years. And then we skip 4, and then you go back, and it started then. But it hung around a little while. Now it's not hanging around at all. Now it's actually very uncool, as somebody told me the other day. It's so uncool to be woke. I encourage all American companies to join us in rejecting poisonous Marxism in our technology. It'll be very interesting to see what's happening in New York, because they're actually thinking about electing a communist in New York. They like to call him a socialist. He's not a socialist. He's a communist. But don't worry, you're going to be okay. He still has to get his money from the White House, and that's not going to happen until he shapes up. But as an example, we are not going to allow men to play in women's sports. That's an example. That's one. And they say that's an 80-20 number. They say 80% would be against it. No, it's not 80-20. It's about 97-3. And I don't know who the 3 are. I've never seen anybody. I've never had a person. I've seen everybody. I'm a very open person. They come up to me and they talk to me. I've never had anybody come up, sir, you have to let men play in women's sports. I've never had it. I deal with hundreds of thousands of people. Every time I talk to somebody, they talk about AI, they talk about everything, but they've never said, you gotta allow, this is ridiculous. Men should be allowed to play in women's sports. It's sort of crazy, isn't it, huh? You have to see, did you see the race? It was a race, a long distance marathon, one of those all-day deals, and we had one of the great female runners, and we had one of the great male runners, and at the end of the day, he won the race by 5 hours and 14 seconds. They waited around for the really good athlete female. It's very demeaning to women, I want to tell you that, but they waited, her parents were waiting for hours. Somebody said, why don't you go back to the hotel and sleep for a few hours and come back and meet your daughter? This is what they do. You got to see the weightlifting records, though. They're the best of all. A woman lifted 212 pounds. It was a world record. It held for 18 years. And now a man who transitioned came up and looked at the bar. How much is it? 212 pounds. Oh, let me try it. Bing, bong. I think he broke the record by 109 pounds. It's going to be a long time. It's going to be a long time before a woman catches that. And these are great athletes and great people, and it's demeaning. And who the hell wants this? We're off of that whole standard, because I just tell you those as examples. We're off of it. The reason the last administration was so eager to regulate and restrict AI was so they could limit this technology to just a few large companies, allowing them to centralize it, censor it, control it, weaponize it, and they would weaponize it. A very dishonest group of people. You probably saw that because we caught them in the act. We really caught them. We had it before, but now we really have them. We have it where it counts. But this is the exact opposite of my approach. The unique strength of the American tech industry has always come from its startups and small tech. It comes through small. Jensen was small. Were you ever small? I think so. When you started in your bedroom, I think you were small, right? He started as very small, and now he's really become very amazing. If you regulate them too much, you kill the source of American genius and technological power. I believe that. Joe Biden had a plan to lose the AI race. I think he wanted to lose it because his plan would never have worked. It would have never been successful. You would have spent a lot of money and you wouldn't have been able to win. They didn't allow you to win, but we have a plan which only admires and respects the winners. Every citizen should take incredible pride in the inspiring feats of American innovators who are pushing the bounds of human knowledge and achievement. The people of OpenAI, Google, Meta, and countless startups are proving once again that America is impossible. You are just impossible to beat. You're not going to be beaten. We're not going to let that happen. When you do your best, when you work your hardest, and when you're allowed to be free of horrible, foolish regulation. And you're going to have regulation, but it's going to be sensible, smart regulation. There's nobody who's going to beat you. As we push even further into this exciting frontier, let us never forget that all of this prosperity and progress has come from the culture of freedom and hard work, merit, ambition, and risk-taking passed down from one generation of Americans to the next. Silicon Valley rose to wealth, fame, and glory by exemplifying these values, and it will win this race not by rejecting them, but by embracing them like they have never been embraced before. We must put America first. This is a nation that invented the light bulb, the telegraph, the television, the telephone, the computer chip, the smartphone, the GPS, the integrated circuit, and even the internet. Basically, we invented everything. What is left? We invented everything. And now it's AI. We invented everything. Does anyone have anything else to say? And now we're going to take it to a new level. But Americans were the first to fly a plane, first to harness the atom, and first to plant our flag on the moon. We mastered the industrial age. We created the digital age. And now we are leading the world into the golden age, indeed, the golden age of America. With your help, that golden age will be built by American workers. It will be powered by American energy. It will be run on American technology, improved by American artificial intelligence, and it will make America richer, stronger, greater, freer, and more powerful than ever before. And I will now do my share by going and signing a name without an auto pen. I will sign it. If we had one, I wouldn't use it anyway, but we will sign it auto pen free, and we will say, Donald J. Trump, God bless America, and God bless you, and good luck, because the race has just begun, and you're going to win it. Thank you very much, everybody.
Mr. President, the first executive order that we've prepared for your signature today relates to federal permitting for data center infrastructure. As you mentioned during your speech, this is a crucial issue affecting the entire AI industry. What this executive order will do is establish fast-track permitting and ensure that the federal government is working to get data centers approved and through the permitting pipeline as quickly as possible.
Okay.
As you said before, sir, it's absolutely essential that American AI models and the American AI industry dominates the future of this industry around the world. What this next executive order will do is promote, through various instrumentalities of the federal government, the export abroad of American AI models to ensure American AI dominance in the future.
Okay.
And lastly, sir, as you said in your speech, we don't want woke AI. We want AI models based on accurate information that give accurate information and accurate answers. This executive order will ensure that when the federal government procures or promotes different AI models, that those AI models are ideologically neutral, that they don't embrace wokeism and critical race theory and all of these terrible theories that have done so much damage to our country.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. Good luck. Good luck. Thank you very much.
Welcome, everybody, to the Just the News No Noise Show. We've been watching President Trump sign some historic executive orders moving forward in the AI, artificial intelligence race. AI used to stand in Washington for American innovation. It's that American innovation that's given us a new AI now, artificial intelligence. It's going to be the epic fight against China for who's going to dominate the world on this President Trump, putting in America in a position to succeed with those executive orders. Now, we've got a jam-packed show for you with some great guests. Amanda, 3 amazing things happened today. The first started at 8 o'clock when Just the News broke the story that the House Intelligence Committee's long secret report from 2020 reviewing the Obama administration's Russia collusion claims actually found that the claim that Donald Trump was helped by Vladimir Putin wasn't predicated on trusted intelligence. It was predicated on the dirty dossier. Yep, the Steele dossier. We broke that story a few hours later. The Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, had a press conference confirming all this information and saying for the first time on the record, yes, I have referred Barack Obama for criminal investigation to the Justice Department because of his behavior involving that assessment. Later in the day, the strategy that Democrats have had to pick at the Jeffrey Epstein scandal, well, it boomeranged a little bit, Amanda. One, a judge now says, I'm not going to release the records, so Donald Trump's off the hook. Now it's the judge's fault. Yep. And then a few hours later, they tried to get the House Oversight Committee to issue subpoenas to the Justice Department. They did. Democrats and Republicans did. Then Scott Perry came in, made a motion and said, well, we should also subpoena Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, and a whole bunch of Democrats. And lo and behold, the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, and others were subpoenaed. And now the Democrats have Bill Clinton to look forward to for depositions. All of that broke in the last few hours. Want to get your thoughts. It was a really momentous day today.
Yeah, and I would just want to tell our audience who the others are. So obviously Bill and Hillary, James Comey, Loretta Lynch, Eric Holder, Merrick Garland, Robert Mueller, Bill Barr, Jeff Sessions, and Alberto Gonzales. So those subpoenas.
Former Attorney General for Bush,
that's
who
right.
let the guy off the hook the first time.
That's right. And then the other court case that we were talking about, the Supreme Court is going to allow President Trump to remove 3 Democrats from the Consumer Product Safety Commission. So
further consolidating his power to make changes to government,
that's
just
right.
like the
Well,
American
he's
people.
the head of the executive, so they can cry all they want, but that's the way it's set up.
A very momentous day, and it's going to play out. I think, Amanda, here's the thing we should all be watching for. We know the FBI had the conspiracy case. We, in a traditional conspiracy case, the vehicle that the Justice Department uses is called a federal strike force, a task force. You get your elite attorneys, your elite agents, you put them together and you say, go investigate this conspiracy and tell us if crimes were committed. Right. If Pam Bondi does that in the next few days, and I'm getting some indications she may, this goes from a Tulsi Gabbard news conference and a history lesson, an important history lesson, to a very serious matter for a group of people, some of them on that list you just read.
Well, Director Gabbard did quite a good job today of giving us a history lesson on this 10-year conspiracy. And actually, one of the reporters in the room asked what they would do about the statute of limitations. And I think that Director Gabbard maybe didn't hear the full question, because she would have reminded that reporter that in a grand conspiracy, if you can prove that all these things are linked, then the statute goes out the window.
Well, the reason we got that report was because of the tenacious efforts of our first guest. He's a congressman from the great state of Arkansas. More importantly, he's the House Intelligence Committee chairman. He pressed President Trump and put in motion the actions that led to today's declassification and gave us this incredible jaw-dropping report. He is Congressman Rick Crawford. He joins us right now. Mr. Chairman, great to have you on the show, sir.
Morning, good afternoon.
Congratulations on getting this report to the American people. We know what Tulsi Gabbard thought of it. You've probably known about the findings of this report in a classified setting for a long time. Why is this more important than just a history lesson? There's something really important here, isn't there?
Yeah, this goes back 2017 when the initial investigation was launched by then Chairman Devin Nunes. We had access to it then and could go over and read it in the CIA space. But it was a very, constrained kind of an environment where, it was difficult to read when people are looking over your shoulder. And, it's a difficult document to read anyway, because it's extensively sourced with footnotes and so on. So even though we had access to it, it was not easy to read under those conditions. So you mentioned that President Trump decided to help us out with that. It did take a whole lot of pressure. I'll be honest with you. I sent him a letter and we got the document within about 12 hours, literally. So he was very amenable to the request, as you can imagine. And then after review, as you said, D&I Gabbard had it, did the classification review, and it's now there for the whole world to see. What we found was that this is possibly one of the greatest perpetrations of fraud against the American people in history. What they did to President Trump, using false information, poorly sourced, in some cases not sourced intelligence reports. And so you can go through this, and people ask me, what are the highlights? I'll let you decide what the highlights are yourself, but here is the overriding concern that I have and have had for a number of years, and particularly as I had become chairman of the Intelligence Committee, and that is the lack of analytic integrity that continues to exist and persist throughout the intelligence community. And it stems from the CIA, but because the CIA is the preeminent agency within the IC writ large, it has percolated out over other agencies because they sort of set the tone. And this has, rather than becoming an anomaly type thing, it's become the norm. And so what we can't allow is for political bias to be introduced in the analytic process. And not only was political bias introduced in the analytic process, it was on steroids. What they did in this document, it's clear to see that this was about trying to demonize Trump. The fact is, there was never an association with Russia. What this document shows is that, if anything, they had a preference for a president, Hillary Clinton, because they had information on her that they could exploit after the fact. They were counting on a president, Hillary Clinton, and then they would have her over a barrel because of the information that they had on her. And if they had any interest in trying to propel Trump into the White House, they would have released that information and damaged her in advance of Election Day.
Stunning.
So Hillary Clinton obviously has her own problems stateside with the emails and the servers and the thumb drives and all of that. But what do you think Russia had on her? Because I don't think anything on that level would be something that Russia would find worth holding her over a barrel for.
Well, there's more information coming. What we have in this document basically shows that because of a DNC hack, they had information about her personally, her mental state, her health conditions, and so on. The use of tranquilizers daily, her mood swings, fits of rage, things of this nature. We saw that on display when she was at a campaign stop at Ground Zero late in the campaign, where she could barely move herself. She was being held up and helped into a van coming away from that particular event. So we saw the evidence of it. And that's one thing. There's obviously others that this document illuminates, but there's more to come on that front. But what we know about Hillary Clinton was that they actually preferred her because she was a softer target with regard to their ability to manipulate her based on the information that they had.
So stunning, sir. And the way this report is written, it's really understandable. I want to ask you if I understand the sequence correct. In September, the Intelligence Committee agrees that Russia doesn't have a preferred candidate. They're just causing mischief like they like to do and cause dissension and chaos. And on December 8th, they were going to go in after the election and tell the President Obama that was still their conclusion. President Obama or his team cancels that briefing and then switches and then tries to create an entirely different conclusion. Is that a layman's way of looking at the sequence?
That's a pretty good sequence of what took place. And then, of course, there was a brief, and then later on, the House Intelligence Committee was briefed. That's when it started to become apparent that there was something wrong. That's when Devin Nunes basically sniffed this out early on, and he initiated the investigation. Then, I think it was on January 6th of 2017, that's when things really started to accelerate with regard to what the deep state was engaged in. I say deep state because before I got on the Intelligence Committee, I was not inclined to entertain the notion of this deep state until I saw it for myself. And as having been on the Intelligence Committee now for 8 years, I can tell you that there are people who think that they run the government and they do it without any accountability and without any election. And they think that they're the ones that run the show. And that just can't happen because, ultimately we're the ones that are responsible. We represent, each of us represent, ostensibly 750,000 each of our constituents that are supposed to have a voice in this process and not be run by faceless, unelected bureaucrats. But that's exactly what was taking place. And it has accelerated over years. And, we've got to get some accountability. And I can't think of a better place to start than the IC.
Wow.
Sir, I know that there are a lot of Americans, at least 70 million or so, who would be very interested to hear the answers of these folks who you have subpoenaed. I know it's hot off the press, but have you gotten any indication if they are going to respond to the subpoena, if you're going to have to compel them further? Any idea about that?
Well, we haven't subpoenaed anybody in the Intelligence Committee yet. I don't know that we're going to do that. I know Oversight and Government Reform, they have issued some subpoenas, and I would expect some probably from Judiciary, but I'm not the chairman. I'm not even on that committee, so I won't speculate. But I do know that Jim Jordan has a history of being pretty aggressive, so it's safe to say he will probably be subpoenaing some of those individuals himself. And that's where the work really gets done. I mean, there's a limit to what we can do in the House Intelligence Committee, and we've done an awful lot of work to shed light on this issue. And now we can, we've given the document for classification review. As you know, you've been able to read it now because of the work of D&I Gabbard. Now it's in the public realm. People can look at this. This can be adjudicated in the court of public opinion, but guess what? It's going to be adjudicated in federal court because we know that there's been criminal referrals on those individuals, that the high profile individuals that we know of. There'll be some others, I feel like. And then the other thing is, it's not necessarily always about trying to prosecute individuals. In some cases, it may not be possible to prosecute individuals, but we can hold them to account by ending their career as bureaucrats and deep state operatives in a federal agency. And that really is what the end state should be, as it applies to some of these lower level employees that were just going along, that didn't have the intestinal fortitude to challenge leadership and say, no, I can't go along with that. That's unacceptable. At some point in time, you've got to have the moral clarity to say, no, I can't do that. It's in violation of ICD 203, Intelligence Community Directive 203, which governs analytic tradecraft. And if you're an analyst and you're in violation of that and you go along with it, then you are complicit. And if you're complicit, there will be accountability. And many of those folks, maybe GS-13s or even below at that time, have advanced up the rank, GS-15 or higher in senior executive service. They're now in positions of leadership, but they didn't have the integrity when it mattered to be able to push back against a corrupt leadership that was perpetrating maybe the biggest fraud against the American people in modern history.
That's so stunning. So we now have a great timetable. We know that the intelligence community believed that Hillary Clinton authorized the dirty trick on Donald Trump to hang a Russian shingle on his campaign house, even though it wasn't true. Barack Obama knows that in July. By September, we know that the FBI knew that Hillary Clinton was funding Christopher Steele's dossier, but they used it anyways for the FISA warrant, even though they knew she had authorized the dirty trick. By October, the CIA has warned the FBI that Christopher Steele's dossier is potentially infected with Russian disinformation because his network of sources was infected. We got that from a footnote declassified. In November, Christopher Steele's fired for violating his informant relationship with the FBI because he was leaking to the media. And then in December, after that entire history, John Brennan's CIA team thinks it's okay to use the dossier to predicate a part of this report, the most controversial part, that Russia wanted to help Donald Trump win the election. What does it say that the dossier could be used that way after all of those black marks were already apparent to all of the people who made that decision?
This was about driving a narrative that was predetermined. We are going to do everything we can to either lay the groundwork for impeachment, to impede the president's progress as a new president, whatever their motivation was. It was clearly nefarious, and there were a lot of people involved. It goes all the way up to President Obama. He can't plead ignorance. He can't, play the plausible deniability card. He was intimately involved in this and authorized it. His henchmen, guys like Brennan and James Comey and Clapper, they were involved in this. If there were folks that brought it to their attention that, hey, look, this Steele dossier was a fabrication and discredited, they didn't care. They basically dismissed it and said, you know what? I think it rings true, so we're going to use it. And you can find that in this document that was just released today, those words. It rings true. He said it rings true. It's what we can sell to the American people. That's what we can do to damage President Trump. Now, would you tolerate this against any other president? Would anyone tolerate this kind of action against a President Obama, against a President Biden? No, they would be enraged at the thought that this went on. So take away the name Donald Trump and just put in president and see if you feel the same way.
You've so powerfully made this available to the public, sir. You played a big role, just like Devin Nunes, in helping us unravel the falsehoods and finally get to the truth. It's a great honor to have you on, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for joining us today. All right, folks. Wow, what a conversation. What a day it's been. Read those stories up on Just the News and the report. We made that report available to you. All right. We told you a little bit about this earlier in the week, that President Trump had intervened to save some Afghan interpreters who were about to be deported from UAE to Taliban. The reporter who helped us break that story, one of the greatest journalists of all time, Laura Logan, one of the great investigative correspondents, she's going to join us and tell us what she knows firsthand on the ground. We'll have her next, right after these messages.
Welcome back, everybody. As you all know, President Donald Trump's administration has secured a deal with the United Arab Emirates to halt the forced deportation of Afghan interpreters and soldiers who served alongside our U.S. forces. They helped us, stopping them from being handed over to the Taliban. And according to our reporting over at justthenews.com, the administration is now beginning the vetting and relocation process, working to provide these allies with long-term safety after their service to this country. And it is a powerful reminder that President Trump honors those who stood by our troops. He values loyalty, and he is taking real steps to protect them, even when others turn a blind eye. So joining us now is award-winning investigative journalist, and she has a new podcast, Going Rogue, with Lara Logan, out now on all of the major podcasting platforms. Lara, welcome.
Going rogue, I like it.
Thank you for having me.
I love it. All right, so we were just talking a little while ago during the break, and it's a tough situation. It's a little bit like a hot potato. Where are these folks going to end up going?
So that's a good question. And it's funny because I was listening to your previous segment, quite fascinating actually. So unfortunately for President Donald Trump, the Biden administration just lobbed hand grenades in every direction and left them with the fallout, right, to deal with. So where are these people exactly going to end up? We don't know. I mean, they've been waiting for 4 years to answer that question. Effectively in an open-air prison. When there were a lot of refugees in the United Arab Emirates, there were schools and that kind of thing. But for years now, their children have not been learning anything, nothing. They've been trapped. And I think what we're seeing play out is that the Trump cuts have been blamed for leaving these people in this situation. That's not what left these people in this situation. If you don't want to deal with all the Afghans that helped the United States, you shouldn't have put their terrorist enemies and your terrorist enemies in power.
Yeah, that's right. The Taliban took over as soon as Joe Biden withdrew.
They didn't take over, John.
Yeah.
They did deals.
Yeah,
they
that's
were
right.
put there. We put them there.
Yeah.
Zolma Khalilzad and all those other people
Right.
did deals, and they put them there.
Yeah.
And then they lied to the American people. They said two biggest lies. The Taliban is different. This is a new Taliban. They're not going to do to women what they did before. That was a lie.
Yeah.
And number two, the Afghans are not fighting.
Yeah.
The National Resistance Front, which is led by Amrullah Saleh, the former vice president. He's one of the leaders of the National Resistance Front, along with the Ahmed Shah Massoud, the son of the great Ahmed Shah Massoud. These people have not stopped fighting. And there are many of them who have been killed. And it is an absolute insult to our allies across the world. And it's also a message. Don't stand with America because we will betray you.
Yeah, that is the message. I want to ask about how close, before you wrote your story on Sunday, and that story caught the attention of President Trump and he intervenes, how close were those 36 Afghan allies who used to stand by our soldiers, how close were they to facing the Taliban?
It was like a movie.
Yeah.
You know when you watch a film and right up until the last moment, you're holding your breath and you can't breathe? Like literally, you're so. Except this was real. So these are people I had known for more than 20 years.
Wow.
Some of them, and at a certain point, once the United Arab Emirates, who I have to say have been very gracious, they inherited this problem from the Biden administration. They didn't create it, and they have housed these people, and they've done a lot for the U.S. over the years. But they reached a point, where they believed they were acting on the orders of the United States, as far as I'm aware, and not obviously President Trump's orders, somebody else in the administration, or not, really working for someone else. And they were doing their bidding. And they had dragged them out of their homes. They had taken an 11 and 12-year-old child, two boys.
There's a moment where she says, my son, they're taking my son,
My
right?
son,
You
my
wrote that in
son,
your
they're
story.
taking my, well, I have the video, I have the voice recordings. So I literally at a certain point just dropped to my knees and I was just sobbing. Have you ever experienced that pain when you could literally just tear your whole body in half? That's the pain I had. And so ultimately, his daughters went and rescued him. They broke open the doors where he and his sons were being held, and his daughters rescued their brothers and their father, and they retreated to their place where they were staying on this refugee camp in the UAE in Abu Dhabi. And I had called everyone I knew in the middle of the night. In fact, you're being coy, because you played a big role in this. Just the News played a big role in this.
We just told the truth and someone paid attention.
Well,
That's what happened.
yes, you're very humble, but you and Rudy Atala from the head of deputy head of counterterrorism in the White House, these are the people who called in personal favors, just like you did, and got people to pay attention. And it was literally, there were 3 Afghan refugees. My family refused to get on the plane, and they escaped when his daughters came and told them. But the others were pulled off the plane.
Yeah, they were literally going on the. They were hours away from facing the Taliban, right?
No, hours away from execution.
Yeah.
Because there is no amnesty under the Taliban. They've demonstrated that over and over again. These are terrorists.
Yeah.
And they have no desire to keep their perceived enemies alive.
I want to stay on that, how dire that situation was, because I know for you personally, the treatment of women is something that's really important.
Yes.
There were inevitably women in this group. Tell us what would have happened to them, because it would have been a fate far worse than just quick death.
Well, years ago in Washington, D.C., I was asked, Hillary Clinton, as Secretary of State at the time, was telling everybody that we're going to withdraw and don't worry, all the women, you're not going to lose any of your rights and so on and so on. And I was asked at a panel in D.C., what would you say to Afghan women to assure them that this is the case? And I said, I wouldn't. So what do you mean? I said, why would I lie to them? If the Taliban returns to power, they will lose every right they have. Some of these groups, like for example in Qatar, so we're talking about Abu Dhabi and UAE, but in Qatar, another U.S. ally, there's a refugee camp with Afghans that includes women from Afghan special forces. Okay, women in a country where almost 100% of women are beaten by their husbands. You have women who stepped up and joined special operations and went out there as soldiers. What do you think will happen to these women? So working on assignment for 60 Minutes in Egypt, I was gang raped and sodomized and beaten almost to death for almost an hour. These women, that will happen to them until they die. And I've asked doctors, how do you die? When you read someone was raped to death, how do they die? They said to me, they bleed to death. I wanted to understand. So these women and the families that I'm talking about, they won't just be tortured. They will be tortured until there is nothing left of them. And I do have to say, I understand that immigration itself is a very difficult subject right now. The Trump administration, another hand grenade they got lobbed at them was the invasion of this country. There are also Afghans who came here fraudulently. In fact, at the time of this all happening, I was one of the people screaming from the rooftops, they've emptied the worst neighborhoods of Kabul. The CIA was heavily involved. They brought a lot of bad people to the United States. But that doesn't mean that the good people who answered the call and helped us need to die. And Donald Trump, fortunately, is a good man. And he was not willing to see that happen on his watch. So he'll take the political risk of supporting these refugees while being savaged for the deportations.
You are a champion of the truth. You're a champion of these Afghan allies. You're a champion of women. And this would not have happened without your courageous reporting, Laura. We're so lucky having the show.
Or you guys. It wouldn't have happened without you. I'm
grateful.
nothing. I'm one of...
You are
I'm
one of the
one
great
of,
journalists of our
but none of
generation.
us do this alone.
No, that's right. We work together. That's
We
how it
do
is.
not do it alone.
All
You
right.
do the right thing for the right reason.
Yeah, we do.
Right?
We do. All right, we've hit that thing called the commercial break. Darn it, I could have gone all day with you. All right, folks, quick commercial break. We'll be back with more just in a second. All right, folks, welcome back. We're going to call an audible here because when you have Laura Logan in the studio, you don't want to let her go. She was just riveting us with this incredible information. We're going to keep Laura here for another block. Laura, there's still a lot that has to be worked on. Every time I think of Afghanistan and the withdrawal, I keep thinking of the message you hear, clean up on aisle 17. Donald Trump has so many cleanups from Afghanistan, from our reputation to the trust with allies to making sure people who are harmed stay out of harm's way. What are the most important things in the next month that President Trump can do to make sure this situation goes right? He saved it from disaster, but how do we get it to go right?
Well, here's couple of the most important things, right? Number one, I understand that staffing at the State Department is around 12%.
Right.
And that's abysmal. At this point in the Trump administration, there's no excuse for that. If the Trump administration and Trump himself think that by making policy and writing executive orders, everything is fixed, it's not. Okay, because your mid-level and just above people in all these agencies are not just implementing your policy. The president needs I mean, who am I to tell the president what to think, right? But what I would want him to know is you have the majority of the American people behind you. I don't even believe the election results. If you go from city to city across this country, state to state, and people are behind the president, they want him to use the powers that he has. Yeah. He has extraordinary powers as president that nobody else in the government has. And this is according to the Constitution. Use your power. The Supreme Court has backed you. Fire all these people. Get rid of these political operatives, the hardcore political operatives. It's not like Obama. After Obama, this is not Trump 1.0, this is Trump 2.0. The hardcore operatives were ready and in place. Get rid of these people. They are subverting you. They are not implementing your policies. They're not honoring your executive orders. They are guilty of subversion, treason, and sedition. Trump is moving fast on, Tulsi Gabbard is moving fast right now, where it looks like we might finally see some results. But thank goodness we have a president who's not afraid of nuance. He has an invasion of the country. The southern border was obliterated under the last administration. They used ordinary people as a cover. They infiltrated hackers, spies, terrorists, Iranian Quds Force, you name it. Trinidad Aragua created just to subvert. These are not cartels, they're foreign paramilitary organizations who are designed to invade the United States. We have another whole thing with fentanyl and drug warfare where our families are being torn apart. Stop looking at addicts as people who went wrong. They are casualties on a battlefield of unrestricted warfare. And you know what? I would say be bold, because you'll never have this chance again. You have the people behind you in spite of what they say. Nobody cares about some little half-developed idiot who wears all black, does lots of drugs, and goes out with a Free Palestine sign, who has absolutely no idea how to find so-called, Gaza on a map. There is no Palestine. They don't know what they're talking about. Nobody cares about them. People care about being safe. They care about faith, family, and freedom. And those who walk in a godless path, who trade in the trafficking of children, those are the people that better watch out.
You got 30 seconds. I just want to ask you, all that the media profession has gotten wrong, when you see what happened today, what does our profession do to get right with the American people?
They're co-conspirators in a conspiracy to undermine a legally elected president. So some have to be held accountable. The rest of us, it's on us. You and I, we didn't do it, but who's going to fix it? If you want to look at who's going to fix the medical profession after COVID and forced experimental medication that kills people and hurts people, you're going to look to doctors. You're going to say, I need a doctor to stand up. Right. So it's the same with journalism. We didn't make the mess, John, but we have to fix it. You know why? Well, you're one of the best journalists in this country, and I'm not saying that to flatter you or blow smoke up your you-know-what, because it's your show. I say that because there aren't enough. Okay, Cheryl Atkinson, Catherine Herridge, there is a few of us who actually know what journalism is. But behind us, there are producers that nobody knows their names. There are plenty of other journalists. If we do not fight for real journalism, we all lose.
Well said. I could not. We ought to put that on the front page of the New York Times. All right, we're going to take one more break, folks. We'll wrap things up. Laura, you're right. It would be if we put it on there, though.
Use toilet paper.
Laura Logan,
toilet paper.
You are an amazing treasure to this country. Good to have you on. All right, folks, quick commercial break. We'll wrap things up quickly right after these messages. Hey, it's a new day in America and a new administration in Washington, D.C. There's a lot of excitement and optimism about the future, but the reality is there's a lot of work to do as well, especially when it comes to fixing our broken healthcare system. The truth is that the forces that are responsible for breaking our healthcare system aren't going to simply go away. The challenges our system faces won't disappear overnight. Now more than ever, you need to be prepared. That's where the Wellness Company comes in. Their doctors are medical professionals that you can trust, and their line of prescription medical kits are the gold standard when it comes to keeping you safe and healthy, as well as your family. Whether it's the medical emergency kit, the contagion kit, the first aid kit, or the travel kit, these prescription kits contain an assortment of life-saving medications and guidebooks to assist in the proper use of these medications. From the flu to strep throat, from COVID to the bird flu, from a trip to the beach to a trip overseas, the Wellness Company has a prescription kit designed to keep you and your family safe. Make America healthy again starts at home. Do your part and protect the health of you and your family. Go to twc.health/justnews today and order. That's twc.health/justnews and use the promo code JUSTNEWS to save 10% off.
All right, welcome back, everybody. I want to tell a little bit of a personal story, and it also wades in a little bit of political waters as well. A dear friend of mine got approved for his green card yesterday.
Wow.
And what's interesting is that he came here as DACA. He has tried for 17 years through pro bono lawyers, through all different avenues to get legal. It was not the Bush administration, the Obama administration, or the Biden administration who approved him. It was the Trump administration. And there is so much nasty rhetoric around what this president is doing. And they are ignoring the fact that he is getting the worst out first. And then you have stories like this. This guy was looked over by every other administration except Donald Trump.
Fascinating. Yeah, no, listen, there's so many stories that don't get told every day. By the way, if you just read today's news story, everything's about Epstein. No one even covers the big breaking news that we covered here tonight, or that Rav has been covering all day, or that Just the News is. That gap, though, is closing, because it doesn't matter anymore if the New York Times doesn't tell you, because there's so many other people that tell you that. That's why the Laura Logans and everybody else we have on set today are so important to the future of our country. We're getting truth around the gatekeepers.
Well, speaking of the New York Times,
Yep.
and then a segue into my story about the pandemic, because
Yep.
you could use the New York Times as toilet paper when we were missing that during the
I think Laura
pandemic.
just said that. I like that. Yeah.
So, yeah, I know that's why I said that. So the Trump administration has rejected the WHO's pandemic guidance, which would have allowed them to impose lockdowns. This is one day before the deadline, I believe. So good stuff.
Protects the sovereignty of America.
Yeah.
Yeah, another big decision by Trump. Another thing he promised during the campaign. Check it off.
That's right. Yeah.
It's a deal.
President Trump was not going to be on board with another governing body telling the American people what to do. He wasn't happy with it the first time around either.
You know something we always promise? We're going to end on time.
But I ended so early last night, I made up for it. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for being here. We'll be back here.